Welcome to the Leverage Factor, where faith meets influence and where strategy meets soul. I am your host, Bishop Charley Hames Jr., and I'm so excited to have this amazing man of God, most importantly, this corporate guru in our midst. He's a man that comes from Aurora, Colorado. He's been through New Rochelle, New York. He's been through the windy city of Chicago. And now he has taken the West Coast by storm. It's none other than Mr. Executive himself, Michael Armstrong. I'm glad you are with us at the Leverage Factor podcast. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Bishop Hames. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, sir. You have served in so many roles. You've been Executive Vice President of Worldwide Television Licensing and Operations at Paramount, formerly Viacom CBS. You've done so many things, leadership, legacy. You serve on various boards, paid and nonprofit. I want to jump right into some questions. Let's start at the roots. How did your upbringing or early career experiences shape the executive and the man that you became today?
Just first off, I'd start by saying I'm really glad to be here. My upbringing in Aurora, Colorado, two parents that were both executives in their own right. My father, a CPA who worked in a number of different industries. My mother actually was the one that brought me into the industry that I'm in. She started in the very early days of cable television, which had its roots in Colorado. And in the early 80s was working for HBO, which was an upstart at the time. And so by the time I graduated from college and was looking to get into the corporate world, I initially went into healthcare food service. I worked for Baxter Healthcare, which was known for hospital supply.
Right.
And we were the sales and marketing arm for Kraft Food Service. I wanted to be in sales. I wanted to be in marketing. That was what my degree was in marketing. And so for the first 5 years, I kind of resisted the pull into that space. But ultimately, an opportunity came to join MTV Networks. Cable was still growing, and this is in the late 90s, in 1998. And kind of a fortuitous connection, I was with my sister, who was working in the cable industry 2 years ahead of me, and we met her MTV rep out at the Chicago, Taste of Chicago.
Yeah, wow.
And I heard him say that they were looking for a sales rep, and it was my opportunity to kind of finally join the family business.
That's crazy. So you joined during the MTV era.
Absolutely. I mean, we were still doing VJ hunt competitions at the time. It was very much about music on television. Relatively early days. MTV started in '81, but by '98 was really cooking. Broad distribution, and the Chicago office served the Midwest in the affiliate space, meaning calling on cable operators, trying to get distribution. We were growing. We had quite a few channels that were being added on a regular basis. And our job in distribution was to call on those cable operators and convince them why they needed to add our channels to their lineup.
Right, and just from a consumer perspective, we watched those videos like sun up to sundown, and to see that there was such a great business arm behind what we see on the face of TV is amazing. I just want to jump in real quick from Chicago B School, Harvard, to the boardroom. What internal mindset shifts did you have to make you lead at the top of global media?
Well, you have to recognize that you're not going to know everything going into roles and opportunities. And so the mindset is you can't have imposter syndrome. You really need to go in recognizing some of it you're going to learn on the job. Some people might say flying the plane while changing the engine at the same time. And I recognize if I had the confidence going in and the humility to know that I didn't know everything, everything was going to be okay. So it's leaning on your colleagues, leaning on those around you to make sure that each of you brought the best of what you knew to each situation so that you could get the best outcome.
So in that same context, because, I've interviewed now a few people, and I'm discovering, especially those who operate in excellence, become the only. and representation at the top really matters. So what does it mean to you to be a Black executive in spaces where culture is produced and power is concentrated?
Well, I think the important thing is I've had an opportunity to work where I was the only, where I was one of few, and then where I, like at BET, where I was one of many. And each of those environments required the same level of bringing the best of what you could bring to the situation. Obviously different working in a room where you look around and everybody looks like you than working in a room where hardly anybody looks like you. But you had to bring excellence to the table each time. And I think in situations where you knew you were one of few or the only, you had to figure out a way to build a pathway to bring others along.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Look, I want to just move our questions to basically strategic leverage in motion. In this context, you've managed billion-dollar portfolios. What's one leadership principle that consistently gave you an edge when making high-stake decisions?
You have to research.
Wow.
You have to really understand what is a win for the person across from you. Typically when you're doing deals, in my instance, to launch channels in countries where you've never lived or you may not even speak the language, it was about understanding what was a win for that person across from you, what was a win for your company, and representing in that room the best of both. Being willing to give, not being too rigid that you couldn't give on a deal point, but also standing firm and true to the things that mattered to giving your company the win. And so to me, that was really all about walking in that room with the right mindset and perspective as to you're not going to walk out with everything that you want. But if you can meet somewhere in the middle, everybody's going to be happy in the long run.
Yeah. I mean, you touched on something I think that's a underutilized leadership principle when you said research. I know I've had several meetings across the aisle of various socioeconomic and ethnic groups. And when I meet with them, I come to the meeting, they already know who I am, what I bring to the table, what kind of gifts, skill sets that I have. And it's amazing because we don't do that naturally. We assume that if we do it, it makes us look vulnerable or eager, or use the common vernacular of children, thirsty.
Right.
But they do it because that's a part of the advantage. And for you to say that, I think is not only a great tool for those who are listening to this Leverage Factor podcast, but to hear what this giant just said, you have to research.
Let me actually double down on research. Because I think when you say research, I think people think, okay, I'm going to try to do a deal with a particular company, but you're really doing a deal with the person. The person that is going to represent the company.
Yes.
And there's so much information out there in the form of, like this podcast, video, audio, of many of the leaders that you're meeting with, talking about what their values are, what matters to them, what their wins are, based upon what they've said before. So for instance, if you go into a meeting and you're doing a deal with a client or trying to do a deal, listening to their last 5 interviews, reading their last 5 interviews, and understanding what are they saying is valuable to them, and then structuring what you're pitching in a way that meets them where they are. That's research. It's not just understanding, do they have this brand? Do they want to launch another channel? What's their budget? Those are all important things. But it's also understanding and researching, who am I going to be in a room with that I have to come out of that room with a deal, with a handshake? And it may not happen in that room, but how am I going to build trust and leverage over time such that we can meet in the middle?
Hey, people been seeing me online for years working out, and yes, that's the way we live. But many people say, well, what do you wear when you work out? Well, I wear swag from drcharleyhames.com. This shirt literally says, rep with purpose, lead with faith. You can get this on drcharleyhames.com. Also, I have the Leverage Leadership workout gear. And we also have hoodies as well. And if you just want a good cup of joe, you can have it with your Leverage Leadership cup at your convenience. I'm telling you, you need to get this stuff right now, drcharleyhames.com, because it's good until the last drop. You just made me remember a critical piece to make what you just said real for me. I remember several years ago, actually now more than 25 years ago, I was at a push convention, and high-powered at that time Willie Gary was there, and he was larger than life. People were surrounding him, and people was trying to get autographs, and a guy pulled me to the side. He says, "Hey, you want to get close to that guy right there?" I said, "I would like to meet him." He says, "Well," he says, "what you need to know is talk about his passions." He says, "He is a staunch advocate of Shaw University. So when you go meet him, mention Shaw University." You know, I did exactly what he said. And Willie Gary, who had more money at that time than I could even imagine, took 40 minutes to talk to me about education because I hit on the subject of his passion, because the guy researched it for me in real time of what basically made him tick and motivated.
People's passions are the gateway to their soul. When you talk to someone about what they're passionate about, you know, for me, it's very easy. Hampton University, you know, I met my wife there. My son is there now. My father-in-law, rest his soul, went to Hampton, and I serve on the board. And so, you know, anyone that knows me, if they're going to talk about something that I'm passionate about, Hampton is at the center of that. And you open people up, you disarm people when you talk about what's important to them. And again, there's so many tells that people give as they communicate to the world. It's very easy to pick up on those things that are important to somebody. And once you're in, it's about staying authentic. It's not about trying to just use it as a way to get in the door and then pitch what's important to you. It's about being authentic to what you're saying. And so I love how you brought that example up with Willie Gary and Shaw. It's a really great way of kind of contextualizing that.
Right. And you dropped the bar. You said understanding people's passions are the gateway to their souls. That's a T-shirt, somebody. I don't know if you know that. We might go into business.
Trademarked today.
Okay, all right. Yes, sir. That was great. That was great. Let's just move on. What is your personal leverage factor? That one trait, tool, or truth that consistently amplify your impact. I know you as a leader in many respects, but what is your leverage factor?
You know, if you show up as the same person in every setting, you don't have to remember what you were pretending to be. So, you know, it's couched in authenticity. But the reality is that people that know me from a corporate environment, a fraternal environment, a university environment, they know the same Michael Armstrong. Now they may see me in different respects. I may be doing a deal versus kind of having a social moment, but it's the same person that shows up. So you don't ever have to remember who am I supposed to be in this moment.
Right.
You're supposed to be you.
Yeah. Authenticity and consistency.
Absolutely.
I love it. In your executive journey, how did you leverage influence over authority, especially in rooms where your presence was powerful but not always dominant? And you're a powerful guy, you know. I'm grateful to know you, and get to know you in an intimate way. But if I didn't know you, you have a dominant presence. Like when you show up into a room, it's like the air comes out and it shifts towards you. How do you leverage influence over authority?
Well, first of all, thank you for that. Everybody brings value. You know, I tell this often when I'm speaking to college students or high school students. When you walk in a room, especially in a corporate environment, that was my area of influence, is being in corporate America for so long. You bring something to the table. So I used to tell young people, don't be afraid to speak up in a meeting where a media company, for instance, like where I worked, is talking about how they're going to execute a campaign or launch a new show, because you're of the age that that media company is likely trying to reach. You have more power in that moment than you realize. And so for me, it's about knowing what you know and being able to accurately represent that in the room. That's your leverage. And that's how you leverage influence, because you're never going to always be at the top of the heap in a room from a power structure. You're going to have likely someone you report to, and in many instances that report to multiple people up the food chain. But you bring something into that situation that somebody else. I'm an African American from Aurora, Colorado. Not a lot of folks in the rooms I was in were was able to say that. So I bring the perspective of growing up in Colorado as an African American in the 80s. Like that's a unique perspective. And so own what you bring into that room and know when to leverage it for value.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Look, I want to shift the conversation a little bit, and I want to talk about what does the next chapter of your leadership looks like now that you're beyond the C-suite. You've had the rare privilege to be in position to do what you're doing right now. You can tell your own story. I want to take your thunder, but not many people can do what you've done at your age, and you've had like a storied career already. So what's next?
Would never look back with regret. I spent a quarter century at what is, as you already mentioned, a variety of names, now Paramount Global, but was MTV Networks when I started, was Viacom CBS. And I loved every opportunity that was presented and given to me to learn, to make mistakes, to succeed. And I don't look back on that with regret that I'm not still there. I've kind of moved to the next phase of my life. I think for me, it's leaning into my creativity. As a business executive, people mostly see how you do deals. They don't understand that you also have other aspects of who you are as a person. And for me, it's about saying, okay, I come from a creative industry where I was on the monetization side of the business. How do I move into the creative side? Again, move in with confidence, not arrogance. I'm not going to be arrogant enough to think that I can just do the creative aspect better than people that have spent their lives doing that. But I have the confidence to try it. Making sure you have the confidence, just like I did when I was in business, to launch channels internationally, which I had never had formal training doing. I used and leaned on my education and the confidence that I brought with me that I inherited from my parents and from those that kind of guided me along the way to give it everything that I had with what I had.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Look, I have a couple of other questions. If you had to write one sentence to summarize your legacy so far, what would it say?
I would say one sentence to summarize my legacy thus far would be, every room I arrived in, I tried to create impact, I tried to learn, and I tried to leave it better than when I arrived.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, we come to this segment, which is the rapid fire round.
All right.
So whatever comes to mind, first thing I want you to respond. One book every leader should read.
One book every leader should read is You're in Charge, Now What?
Yes.
I got that book when I got my first vice president job at 30. And I was leading a team, and I had never led a big team. And I later learned that book was written by someone that I got to know later in life, a leader by the name of James Citron. He was a co-author of that book. But it was a really great guide to help you understand there are some key things that you need to do when you all of a sudden are in charge of other people. Number one, you're in charge of them with regard to guiding what they do to get to the end result. But also, you have to be there and be a leader for them so that when they make mistakes, you can guide them along the way, but also wrap your arm around them and make sure they understand that they'll live another day to do other things. So that's a great book and still relevant today.
Gospel artist or jazz musician that's on your playlist right now?
That's easy. Samara Joy,
all right.
One of the best.
Yes.
If you haven't checked her out,
Love
she
her.
is this generation's Sarah Vaughan, Ella Fitzgerald.
Yes, I agree. amazing melodic voice.
Unbelievable. And her grandfather.
Yeah,
also.
grandfather, yeah.
And father.
Yeah, elder, I can't call his name right now, but that man is bad.
Yeah.
Elder, can't grab it. I'll grab it later. Best business lesson you've learned from a loss?
Oh, well, the research piece. When I first got into that job that I mentioned, I think I thought my ideas were what got me into the job. And one time I would say forced my team, but I led my team to execute on one of my ideas, and I hadn't done my research, and it ended up costing us a lot of money. And I think having humility in that moment, recognizing I really didn't do my research, I really didn't listen to the team as much as I should have. And so that was the best lesson because, who knows, it could have taken me off my career path, and maybe were it not for some folks giving me a little bit of leeway, I may not be sitting here with you today.
Yeah, well, hey, I'm glad for the grace.
Yes.
And for the favor.
Yes.
And speaking of that, his name was Elder Goldwire.
There you go.
Yeah, I had to remember it. What's one mistake leaders make when trying to be influential?
I think people realize that you have all the answers. You don't. Leaders should never be the smartest person in the room, or at least not act as if they're the smartest person in the room. They need to survey the team, listen to all the ideas, and their job in some ways, and I'll use a preacher term, is to create a homily around what those ideas are, synthesize those, and be able to then create direction for everyone to get the best out of the team, to get the best result. So don't ever go in thinking you're the smartest person in the room. It'll get you in trouble.
Yeah, y'all heard that. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room, because if you are, most of the times, it will get you in trouble, especially if you think you are and you're really not. This has been enlightening, impactful, and illuminating conversation. Some young man will like that alliteration. I'm not going to say who he is, but I'm grateful to give it to you today. I'm sitting with the executive extraordinaire in the person of Michael Armstrong. I so thank God for you and for your witness and for your effectiveness as a leader. And I'm waiting that everybody watch this podcast, because it's going to change your life as you walk in to change boardrooms. This is The Leverage Factor. I'm your host, Bishop Charley Hames Jr., and I look forward to the next time we're together. Peace.